Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with the eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Heaping Spoonful, a podcast where we visit with some of the Mid-South's top chefs and restaurateurs. I'm Kelly Bass, and I'm proud to be your host. Like many of you, I'm sure, lots of my best memories involve fabulous food and the great places to eat it. I was lucky to cover the restaurant scene for a couple of Little Rock, Arkansas newspapers and magazines, more on than off for more than 30 years. And now, thanks to the kind folks at Benny Keith Foods, I'm a podcaster. My guest today on Heaping Spoonful is Elihue Washington Jr., owner and operator of Lassis Inn, a truly legendary restaurant in Little Rock that specializes in some of the best fried fish anyone, anywhere could ever want to eat. So welcome, Elihue.
Yes, hello. Good to be here. Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great.
That's good.
So it's a little unfortunate that podcasts are audio only because it's hard for people to visualize the Lassis Inn just based on a description. So let me tell everybody listening, take a second, Google Lassis Inn, L-A-S-S-I-S-N, and Little Rock, and then hit images. You're going to get good looks at the outside and the inside of this unique business and this unique building, and you'll see the gentleman I'm sitting here with right now. Elihue, I know the business was founded about 1905 by the Watson family, and that after selling sandwiches out of their home, they added fried catfish. And the way you understand it, that's really when their business took off, right?
That's right. That's when it really started growing then. After they started serving fish, the business got so great until they had to move into a larger building.
Right.
So they moved into a larger building in 1930. And that's the same location as it in now. That's where I am.
Right, and that's the same building. I mean, that's the building they built in 1930 is the building you're in now, right?
That's the building I'm in now.
Yeah, and if you, again, look at the images, but it's got really, for a big guy like me, kind of small booths that obviously were constructed at that time. But the name of the place, Mrs. Watson's name was Molasses.
Yes, that's what I understand.
And then they thought, I read that they were going to call it Watson Inn. They decided to call it Lassis Inn. So, yeah. And I guess that building sat right there, except in the 60s when Interstate 30 came through, I guess they had to scoot it over a little bit to make way for the interstate?
That is true. They had to move it over 15 feet.
15 feet, wow.
From the interstate.
Right. And so after Mr. Watson died, the restaurant was closed for a few months, and then you and your wife, Marita, bought it in 1989. So you and I have discussed it, but tell our listeners what you had been doing before you became a restaurant guy.
Yes, before I started in the restaurant, I was working for Safeway Bakery. And I stayed there for 19 and a half years.
Wow.
And time started, changing there on my jobs, and I found out that Safeway was going to sell out. So they sold out to Harvest Food, if you remember.
I do.
And Harvest Food stayed there for a while, but a short period of time. But I got out of there in time just before everything closed up and folded up.
So you bought it from the Watsons, I guess, heirs or
the heirs of the Watson.
So did you change much, or did you just go in there and keep doing what they were doing as far as what you were serving?
I changed a little. The only thing I just added some
sides and some
sides to my menu.
Right.
That's the only difference I made.
Yeah. And I guess if you didn't already know how to cook fish, you learned pretty quickly because you were really good at it.
Well, that's true. I had one of the original guys that worked there before me. He trained me.
Okay.
He trained me for probably about 6 months.
That's great.
And he had a health problem. Mm-hmm. And after 6 months, he had to stay at home. He was confined to staying at home because he had cancer.
Oh, but you'd already learned how to run the show. So
I had learned how to run the show.
Yeah.
And the last thing he told me before he left, he said, I think you can handle it now. He said, I'm going to leave you. I think you can handle it.
Yeah, so, on-the-job training. Well, what was business like in 1989? Were you getting many people from the main part of downtown, or was it more just neighborhood folks, or what was the business? Was it as brisk as it has gotten to be, or was it slower back then?
It was slower then.
Yeah.
I was only getting the neighborhood people mostly.
Right. Back
then when I first opened. As a matter of fact, I only was selling something like from 40 to 50 pounds of fish per week.
Okay.
When I first started there.
Right.
Now, that was the whole week. I was throwing only 40, 50 pounds of fish per week.
Yeah.
And I surrounded myself with some good help.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
I surrounded myself with a lady that grew up in Little Rock. She attended Little Rock Public School, and she knew a lot of people. So she started working for me, and she started making phone calls.
Telling people.
And my business started jumping then.
That's good. Well, I can't remember who told me about it, but once you find it, and of course it's real easy to find, and I'm telling anybody listening, wherever you are, if you're coming through Little Rock and we're at the corner of I-30 and I-40, hop off at the Roosevelt exit and go eat fish at the Lassis Inn. I mean, the experience is outstanding, and the fish is even better than the experience. So, there's several things beyond your food, which obviously we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, that the Lassis Inn's famous for. So let's go through those one by one, and let's start with what I really consider the most important and significant. And again, folks who are not familiar with Little Rock probably do know us for something we're not proud of, which was the desegregation problems in 1957 when Governor Faubus tried to keep the African-American students from attending Central High School, and President Eisenhower had to send in the National Guard. And there was a famed and beloved woman named Daisy Bates and her husband, L.C. Bates, that were very strong civil rights activists, and they had meetings at Lassis Inn in those years. And that's again, you weren't there, but you know that.
I wasn't there, but I understand that's after I'd done some research, I found out they met there for quite a few times.
Yeah, I mean, that just ought to make you feel good that people felt comfortable, that it was a safe place for them to gather and talk about really important issues at a really turbulent time.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And then there's the famous, and again, everybody talks about it, and there's the famous no dancing signs. And you've got some good stories of why you ended up putting those up. Tell us about that.
Well, I had real good business when I was letting them dance in there. My business was great. It was I had got so much business until I couldn't hardly handle it. And I had to do a lot of repairing in a short period of time.
Some enthusiastic dancers, huh?
Yes. So that's when I discontinued it.
What were they tearing up?
Well, sometime the face bowl might be hanging off the wall,
yeah,
in the laboratory. And sometime the floors had, started giving away spots, started wearing holes in the floors. So I had to repair my floors 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
When they were dancing.
Yeah, because it's an older building for sure, and not big. And I would imagine that, and I will admit, I've enjoyed my fish accompanied by a 40-ounce Budweiser beer while I've been there with a friend. And I imagine those dancers were pretty good beer customers as well as fish
They
customers.
was good customers. It was very good customers.
Yeah. And then there's the jukebox, which again, it's had so many great R&B and soul songs and soul artists that I love and a lot of people love. And so I'm all the time, when I'm coming to Lassis Inn, I'm coming up and getting some quarters from you, about $5 worth, and pumping in there so I can listen to good tunes. But that jukebox has been a big deal for you too, right?
It have. It's make the business better, because it was a box there when I first started there. Mm-hmm. It was a juice box there then. And my understanding, it had been one there ever since they started.
Yeah.
Boxes,
Well, that's cool. That's really cool. Well, look, we're going to take a short break here on Heaping Spoonful, and we're going to be back in just a bit with Elihue Washington, Jr. of Lassis Inn.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Heaping Spoonful. Our guest today is Elihue Washington Jr., owner with his wife Marita, and he is a fabulous fish fryer at Lassis Inn, one of the Little Rock, Arkansas's oldest and most acclaimed restaurants, and he tells me that his wife Marita is his very best worker. So obviously they've got a good team there. So now let's talk about the amazing food you serve, starting with the catfish. Unlike most catfish-focused restaurants, you serve fillets and catfish steaks. I personally get the steaks because they seem even moister and more succulent than the fillets, but I'm sure you sell more fillets than you do because they're just easier to eat. But, I mean, you're committed to both products, right?
That's true. And I sell more filet than I do steaks.
Right. But as I would have guessed, the preparation on them is pretty similar. Same batter?
But the same batter. I put the same batter on all of my
fish.
Fried food.
And then there's the buffalo ribs, which, again, when we say buffalo, we're not talking about bison. We're talking about a kind of, it looks like a carp. It's a sucker fish, I guess, a bit of a bottom feeder. Tell us, I guess, were they serving buffalo when you bought Lassis Inn?
They were selling buffalo.
Yeah, and where do you get that? Because I know you can, we're sitting here at Benny Keith Foods, and I know you get your catfish from Benny Keith and maybe some other things, but where do you get buffalo?
Most of my buffalo come from White River and Arkansas River.
They're just some commercial fishermen?
Commercial fishermen. They produce my buffalo.
Right, so you've just had the same relationship with some of those guys for a long time.
I have the same relationship, and they've been very good about keeping me supplied.
Well, I've enjoyed it. I don't like it quite as much as catfish, but it's not a super fishy fish, or it's I think people are scared of it, but it's really it's a firm flesh and it's pretty juicy. And is that just something that you sell not nearly as much as catfish, or is it are they close together in how sales volume?
Well, the buffalo is close to my filet.
Right.
I sell a lot of buffalo.
Yeah, good. I bet you got your regulars.
Yeah, yes, I have my regular come there. That's the only reason some of them come there, because of the buffalo. Matter of fact, when I run out of buffalo and they come in, I'm out, they turn around, walk out the door.
Oh, they don't want the catfish.
They don't want anything with like cat.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you don't ever want to have to run out, but I guess supply and demand is just the thing it is. And I saw a video that was produced by the James Beard folks. We're going to talk about that award in a little bit. And I saw my friend Rex Nelson on there talking about that buffalo is what he gets. And then I saw another guy said he drives from pretty far away to come, because you can't just walk in a restaurant in any town in Arkansas and get buffalo. So,
yes.
Yeah, again, it's something everybody, fish lovers, should try for sure. So any discussion, well, let me back up a little bit. So fried fish, and it's a lot to me like fried potatoes, that it's so much better just seconds after it comes out of the grease than it is 15 or 20 minutes later. So my experience, and I think you've told me I'm correct, is that when I order catfish, at that time when someone who took my order comes up and puts it up on the window, that's when you batter and fry the catfish. And so it's not fried in advance.
No, it's not. I only fry orders as I get them. When I get them, that's when I deep fry them.
Yeah. And then 15, 30 seconds later, they're sitting in front of you at one of those cool little booths.
That is true.
Yeah, that's good. And again, any discussion of the best catfish in Arkansas obviously has to include Lassis Inn. And, I've really prided myself because I think it's a cool place and the fish is great and the whole experience is great, that I've taken people there for their very first time, and then they've taken people for their first time. And so it's really kind of become not a cult classic because it's pretty well known, but it's experience beyond the food. Again, we've already confirmed those booths date back to 1930 when the Watson family had that building built. You hadn't really made any interior changes other than putting some cool stuff on the wall, have you?
Yes, that's the only thing, painting on the walls. And I have painted the interior twice since I've been there.
Yeah, well, I figure that's going to just have to happen. And, I'll say that, and, when I opened the show talking about the fact that I used to get to write restaurant reviews for newspapers, I was at the Arkansas Gazette, and there was an Arkansas Democrat, and there was two of us were really the only ones who got to do that. Well, now with the internet, there's Yelp and there's TripAdvisor, but you got a lot of Rock City Eats and the Mighty Rib, and a lot of those food bloggers have really, loved turning on their readers to, or listeners to, what we might call hidden gems. And you've also been the subject of lots of coverage in newspapers and magazines. And so when when I'm waiting for the fish to come out, sometimes I'm up reading articles on the wall and different cool stuff like that. But then two huge things happened, to and for Lassis Inn and for you and your wife, which is in 2017, your restaurant was one of the very first 3 inductees into what was then the brand new Arkansas Food Hall of Fame, along with Jones Barbecue Diner in Mariana and Rhoda's famous hot tamales in Lake Village. Beyond the joy and the honor of receiving that award, did I'm guessing that would have probably sent a lot of new people your way when you got in a Food Hall of Fame.
It did. It sent a lot of people. My place started packing up, Really, only standing room was in there after I received that award, which I was very, very honored to get that award. I was surprised to be the first one.
Well, that's and of course I've been to Rhoda's and I've met Rhoda. She got mad at me because all I wanted to buy was some tamales, and she was mad I wasn't going to buy something else. But she got over it because her tamales are pretty special. But what is the capacity? I mean, generally speaking, how many folks, if seated, can be at your? Because it's not a big place.
No. 55.
55
I can see
people.
55 people in there at a time, one time.
Not a ton. Well, then that was a huge honor. But, every year they're adding, since 17, they add a few to that. But an even much more exclusive and important honor came your way earlier this year when the James Beard Foundation presented Lassis Inn its American Classics Award. That's huge. So
True.
you got notice of that in February of 2020. And again, did that the same way? I'm sure you just saw new people and come rolling into your restaurant.
That's true. Yeah, so it was new people that started coming in behind the James Beard Award. And I have also received some more recognition. The Southern Living magazine.
Oh, wow.
They entered me into the Southern Living magazine. And my business started jumping then.
Yeah.
The Southern Living magazine is all over the world, yeah.
Yeah, it's based in Birmingham, but it goes all over, and it's
all over the United States.
And obviously, it's very. If they say something's good, then something's good. Well, that is really cool. And again, for our listeners, the James Beard Award, this is American Classics Award. They also have where they honor chefs and things, but in all the categories James Beard does, the only 2 Arkansas restaurants that have won anything, they've had some finalists, but the only winners have been for this American Classic Award, and that was Jones Barbecue Diner in Mariana and now the Lassis Inn. So, I hate it for you. I hate for a lot of people that, you got this award or you learned about the award in February, and then in March, things started spiking in the first round of our COVID-19 pandemic, and you had to shut your doors, like all the restaurants here. And I just wish you'd gotten more time before that. And then you were supposed to go to Chicago and get that award in early May, but you ended up getting it virtually. Yes. So, and you say again, we're recording this in late November of 2020, and you still hadn't seen the actual award yet, right?
I haven't received it.
That'll be a big thing. Well, I'm hoping, I was hoping for months that I wasn't going to have to continue to talk about this subject because it's painful for everybody. But, I'm working with all the restaurateurs and chefs on this Heaping Spoonful podcast. We have to talk about the pandemic, and clearly you were closed. But then when you were allowed to reopen, did you just do takeout for a while, or have you been dine in for a good while, or what's that been like?
Well, I started when I opened after that. I put a sign up saying only 10 can dine in,
right,
and all the other order was to go, so I can accept 10 customers in there at one time,
right,
dining in.
You can keep them spread out.
Can spread out that many. That's the only thing I could do to try to keep their safety,
Sure. Have you had a pretty brisk takeout business? Because I know that Rusty Mathis and I were there getting takeout just a few days ago.
It's better. It's better than the dine-in.
Yeah. Well, I think people are just, again, comfortable, with that for a while. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I highly recommend anybody listening to us who has a chance to go to Lassis Inn to do it. You will absolutely not be disappointed. And so thanks to Elihue Washington for being my guest today on Heaping Spoonful. We appreciate all of you all listening. Remember, we post new episodes the first and third Tuesday of each month. So go wherever you like to find your podcast, wherever you found this one, enjoy more episodes. We've done more than 25 of them now, so you catch up on the old ones when you get a shot. Thanks, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.